Hello there and welcome back to the last Battlepass Devblog. And apparently the top reward will be the Su-8. While many have already guessed that the top reward will be an aircraft, apparently they were thinking, or many people were thinking it's gonna be a South American aircraft, I think an Argentinian Packard or something like that it was called, because they found it in the files, but no, we get this. Um, which I have never heard of, to be honest, so let's look at it. It's already giving me PTSD looking at this short clip though. Anyways, the Su-8 twin-engine attack aircraft will be the most heavily armed cannon aircraft in the game at launch. Alright, it has the following features. It is, by the way, rank 1 premium. It has 4 45mm guns, AP rounds, so it's gonna be absolute cancer, large payload and mediocre maneuverability when using suspended weapons. Well, alright. Let's see about the history, because I really haven't heard of this thing. Anyways, the team at the Sukhoi Design Bureau submitted to the 1940 competition for the Red Army Air Force a project of a single-seat twin-engine aircraft with the promising M71 engines, which were supposed to provide good flight characteristics, even when using a large payload weight. After the initial approval of the idea and the first recommendations received from military authorities, the production facilities of Aviation Plant number 298? No, 89, sorry, in German it's the other way around. That's just kind of fucked with me for a second. Were hastily evacuated to the city of Molotov. Since the German army was approaching Moscow despite the turmoil and confusion associated with the relocation of production facilities, work on the aircraft's design continued and went on until the end of the war. While development was in progress, the aircraft became a two-seater. The engine received an afterburner mode, armor was significantly increased and firepower increased drastically. The final factory tests on the Su-8 took place only in the spring of 1945, when the attack aviation niche was occupied by Ilyushin aircraft, and the latest Il-10 was already in service, the components and assembly of which had been mastered in production. The Su-8 attack aircraft was not submitted for state testing, and the project was closed in 1945. Alright, that's quite interesting. Especially considering why I haven't heard of it. It's the main prize in the new Battlepass season. The Soviet Su-8 attack aircraft seems to have been created for War Thunder mixed battles. Well, yeah, apparently, with its anti-tank thingy stuff. Jesus Christ, unprecedentedly powerful guns, significant payload, good maneuverability, and a premium status makes the Su-8 one of the best mid-tier aircraft for attacking ground targets in mixed air battles. The main caliber of the Su-8 is a battery of 4 45mm NS 45 guns with an ammunition load of 50 rounds per barrel. That doesn't seem that terrible as for tanks. Because 50 rounds aren't necessarily a lot. I, happen to know that from, from experience with the Kika. Although one has to consider that with every press of the trigger you will fire 4 rounds. That means that you can in total expend 200 rounds, and that they are spread out more. As you can see here in this picture, the cannons are in this kind of U shape. So it should be easier to hit, especially critically, than with, let's say, the Pulkzerstörer, the German Me-2628 6.7 with the 50mm, or as example the American aircraft with the 75 and so on. So if you actually get a good hit on a tank, you will probably knock it out with one hit. But the maneuverability and the attack angles you can realistically fly with this are very important. Well, on top of that, you have the 3 bombs that you, I believe from the video, can drop individually, if I've seen that correctly. Yeah, you can drop them individually. On top of that, you can also apparently strap rockets to the wings. So that actually, I'm not sure it's gonna be very nasty in ground matches. especially as they put a lot of emphasis on how robust this vehicle is. Oh, well, it's not a vehicle, it's an aircraft, but you know. Anyways, the guns are located under the fuselage, which we just looked at, along the axis of the aircraft that makes it possible to conduct accurate fire even at longer distances. When using armor-piercing shots, cannon fire becomes dangerous for any ground vehicle, including the most heavily armored self-propelled guns and heavy tanks. Cannons can fire burst, but in this mode the dispersion increases. We recommend firing single shots or short bursts. Aim at them at the side, turret roof, and engine compartment roof of enemy vehicles and destroy an enemy with just a few successful salvos. In addition to cannon armament, the Su-8 carries a large payload of bombs and rockets of various calibers, up to 10 unguarded HE or AP rockets of 82 and 132 mm calibers, are stored under the wings. Pylons for 100, 250 and 500 kg bombs are located under the fuselage, up to 1,600 kg in total. With some of the bombs also mounted on the wings, the pilot will have a choice of various combinations of bombs and rockets of various calibers. However, it should be remembered that the speed and maneuverability of the already heavy Su-8 fall even lower if the attack aircraft carries external weapons. It is most advisable to use the bombs during the initial flyovers of targets in order to maintain speed and maneuverability for aimed firing from cannons and avoiding a chase. The Su-8 is noticeably more durable in combat compared to many other attack aircraft. Two air-cooled engines with very strong windshield armored properties, as well as two turrets give the Su-8 a good chance to get to its airfields in one piece even after taking significant damage from anti-aircraft guns or under fire from fighter machine guns. However, successfully landing a clumsy and damaged Su-8 is as difficult as getting away from the chase. I'm a bit skeptical about this because the Soviet cannon aircraft are usually absolutely atrocious to have in ground matches. Especially, like, as example, the IL-2s are already quite hard to take out in general, especially if you're a ground vehicle yourself. And they put a lot of emphasis on how strong this vehicle is when it comes to protection. So I would be far from surprised if it could tank an SBAG salvo, unless of course it has a 40mm bore force. Although I've seen the aircraft do that as well. From just the get-go, since they also put a lot of emphasis on the mixed battles, I'd assume it's at 5.7, 6.0 makes little sense as there's not really a lineup for it. Maybe 6.3 at most. But I suspect that it will be relatively low in BR. But we will have to see it. About it, I could either be overestimating it based on what I just read, and well, there isn't really a point in crying over it being broken before it is in the game, but I can see a very realistic potential of this temporarily ruining the BR for anything but, or also including the Soviets at BR it's going to come. Or where the BR range it's going to touch, because let's say it's at 5.7, you will also feel it at 4.7 and 6.7. But that has to be, well, that has to be seen. I don't want to make a conclusive statement on that yet. Because it's also a fairly unique aircraft, where it has a lot of similarities with other Soviet attack aircraft. As example, the gun layout is relatively unique, so I don't want to give shit to this aircraft yet. Although I suspect it's going to be broken. I mean, it's also the top reward of the Battlepass. They're kind of always a bit watched. Anyways, if you have any ideas or opinions on this, write it in the comments like always. Otherwise, thank you for listening and goodbye.